radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Well. How you doing? It's Fade to Black. That's right. Today's Thursday, December 4th, 2025, firmly in the Christmas season. Let's do this, man. Very excited about the show tonight. Great week. Monday night, we had Suzanne Ross here, Love in Portals. Tuesday night, Michael Tellinger was here, Human Origins. Last night, Maureen St. Germain. Wow. And tonight, wrapping up the week, it is Barry Littleton. I didn't even, I was looking at what should I call the title for the show? What should it be? Contactee. We'll just leave it right there and we'll see where the conversation goes. It's Barry friggin' Littleton. It's going to be an amazing conversation. My next event, I'm fully booked for 2026, but my next event is the Conscious Life Expo. It is February 20th through the 23rd, 2026 at the LAX Hilton. This will be my 13th year of hosting the Conscious Life Expo. Come and hang out with us. Tickets and information are below. Full schedule, everything that you need, early bird pricing, all that fun stuff is below. All right. I'll leave that right there. Before I get to Barry, Barry, what can I say about Barry? I'm going to say this about Barry. Never met him. Didn't know who he was. But he was booked at my conference. And he was brought to the conference for, that's another story. So the conference is going on. I'm sitting in the back, right? And I was sitting with Jason Quitt. Two of us are in the back. And Barry takes the stage. And he gets up there and I listen. First off, from the very first words out of his mouth, it was like, this is a cool guy, right? So he had my attention from there. But I'm listening to his presentation. I sit through the whole thing. And I'm sitting in the back on, that's my guy right there. That's my guy. So after he gets off the stage, I went up, I grabbed him, and we went outside and sat down and talked for a while too, for a minute, an hour or two. And since then we've been friends, but I put a lot on first impressions. I really do. First impressions for me sometimes can waffle. And, I'll still have an extended relationship with somebody, even though I'm kind of like squinty eyed and things. Wasn't like that with Barry. And we have been friends ever since. And that's that. And I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time tonight with Barry talking about how we met and, wow, man, you're so cool. No, let's leave that right there. I just want everybody to understand the immense amount of respect that I have for Barry. And I have just been excited all week knowing that we were going to have this conversation tonight and he's going to be here. So with that, I'll say it again. Tonight on Fade to Black, contactee Barry Littleton is back with us. And I'm going to spend some time tonight talking about his original experience and contact. But I want to talk to him also tonight about his feelings of disclosure, where we are, what is ET, what is ET to him, and maybe how the world perceives extraterrestrial intelligence and what is going on. And then we have everything else that is happening, not only inside our community, but outside as well. He's a graduate in psychology, sociology, and ethnic studies from Wichita State University. And for the last 2 decades, he's been right here with us. But he's been involved in administration for at-risk youth, including cognitive behavioral modification and managing aggressive behavior. Yeah, he's also been working on me, and he's been doing pretty good. Yeah, he has researched and practiced several aspects of the spiritual. That's right. The metaphysical, the paranormal. He has documented all of this. It has started from his childhood, his illustrations and his presentations on his encounters, the strange playmates and all of that. We're going to go through that tonight. Is just absolutely remarkable. It's extraordinary. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Barry Littleton. He's there. Barry, how you doing, man?
What's up, Jimmy, man? Thank you for the introduction, brother. I hope I don't flake out now. Man, it's good to see you. Thank you for having me back on. I'm honored, and hello to your audience. And it's a pleasure, man. It really is. So
yeah, man. It's okay. Let's get the fanboy stuff out of the way from both of us, because we're fans of each other, and that's really cool. I think everybody's picking up on that vibe. But let's start here, man. You ready for the holidays?
Yeah. You know, it's already been pretty good so far, and we missed that last snowstorm that a lot of people got hit with. So I'm hoping that the luck holds out a little bit. But it's been all right, not bad at all. You know what I mean?
Christmas tree? Is your Christmas tree up?
No, I don't put one of those up anymore. I normally put some of these figurines that my mother had that were these black figurines of black melanin dominant Santas. She had several of them, so I put all of them around the table, and it's my little I don't know.
I want you to repeat that phrase. Mela what? Dominant what? Say the whole thing again.
Melanin dominant Santas. Black Santas. My mother was an antique collector, so she had a lot of different antiques, and she has some of these antiques that are these black Santas. So I've kind of put them around, and that's the little display about as far as I go.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I think all of us on both sides of the spectrum of color, right? Of all sides. No matter where it's all white, and I've often thought, you know what I'm saying, and I've often thought, man, what does everybody else think when they look at their family, no matter what your background is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything is white. Everything is white. The Easter Bunny's white. You know what I mean? Everything is white.
Yeah, don't forget you got the tall whites too. Let's get that.
Yeah, we have the tall. Yeah, that's what we need. We need the tall blacks. But you know, Jesus, nobody knows. Nobody, right? Nobody knows unless you're a time traveler, right? And you come back with some documented stuff. You don't know. And so I've always found that completely offensive. I always have.
You know, there you go again, Jimmy Church. You see, you got yourself in trouble with our very first interview. You went exactly where it needs to go. That the conferences and that the entire thing that we deal with is very skewed in terms of melanin dominant people and just ethnic people. You know, I've seen it since we met, though. It's starting to change, though. You know, not rapid enough, but it's changing to where there's more incorporation of others going to make this into a Gene Roddenberry type of a bridge of the enterprise. We've got a little bit of everything, including maybe some non-humans too, you know.
Yeah, that was one thing I loved about Gene. He was inclusive. he was DEI before DEI. But okay, I'm going to tell everybody something. I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but I'll say this out loud. I remember when you and I first sat down outside, right? When I pulled you outside and we sat down, I think the first thing out of my mouth was, dude, you're black. What's that like? And I to tell everybody I said that, because I said, look at this conference, right? What's that like? You go, man, it doesn't matter, and but yeah,
Man,
yeah.
I got to correct you. You actually were the first person up to the podium when I got done speaking, and you asked in front of everybody, and you said that you had somebody you worked with that you thought was a contactee, but they're black and that they wouldn't talk about it, and you asked openly. And then we did that first interview. I was still on that property out there, and,
Right.
and we did it, and we got done. I came out of the office, and everybody was clapping. Hey, it was really good interview and everything, but we're a little bit upset with Jimmy. Why? Well, because he was talking about the race thing. And I just kind of sat there and listened to a couple of is that what you heard in 2 hours at the beginning of our conversation? That's what stands out to you the most? So I know you took a lot of heat for it. And the second time the second interview we did, you said, yeah, I did a little bit, but it had to be done. So much respect to you, my friend. You know what I mean?
Why? I understand the tension, but not talking about it, you don't learn anything. You don't learn anything. And you know what? And here's a wise man once said, Barry, if you don't make a mistake and you don't screw up, you haven't learned anything. When you screw up, you learn something. And that's it, man. That's what you're talking about. Then we'll move on. We'll get all of this out of the way. What you're referring to is my first producer on Fade to Black. His name is Hilton J. Palm, and I went to college with him, and really cool dude. Born and raised in South Central. He lived off South Central is a street in LA. It's Central Avenue, and then you go down and it's called South Central. It is the location of LA, but it's the name of a street. He lived off of a street and South Central. So when you say he was from South Central, he was at, anyway. I've met his mom. His mom's been to my house. Really cool guy. But anyway, I asked him once, it might have been on the air, but I asked him once, I said, man, if anybody has a guess, he's black. I said, Hilton, have you ever seen a UFO? No. I said, okay, all right. If you have seen one, would you talk about it? No. No. What about ghosts? No, man. No. And he was so, I go, why are you so, man? I don't even want to talk about it right now. It's just something that, and I was just fascinated. And I was like, well, why? Let's talk. I really, really want to know. So that's who you're talking about when I first told that story. And I've never forgotten that. I've talked about Hilton and that experience on the air many, many times because I was fascinated with that.
You know, what's interesting, you mentioned that you're a good judge of character too. And you see, there's something about him that you had said you thought he was some type of a contactee. He had that type of a feel. And, you know, I've talked about that there's a thing, a term that I stole from Doctor Who that's called Artron energy, because it travels through actually a wormhole. And we can talk about Makos and black holes and stuff like that. But when someone is on board that craft, their body gets irradiated with a type of energy that can be detected, high energy. And that's not unrealistic when you get individuals who've been on some of these craft that have, an engine that is temporally displaced. Okay, so it means the inside and outside of the craft are not exactly in the same dimension. And you can it irradiates the cells in some way. Or if you're just around some of these beings that they give their kundalini, their life energy, their prana, their orgone energy in a symbiotic way to power the craft also. So you get around something like that, and the sentience conscious way too, you get irradiated in the same way when you're within their biofield. And then I can detect that on other contactees.
So
you know what I mean?
You have a real BS detector.
Oh yeah, and it goes off hard because some of the people that we've met, they got some big stories, man. And when I get around them and they shake my hand, I can feel they don't have that energy. Why not? That doesn't mean they're not, but it makes me what's the word? Sus. I'm sus. I mean, it's a real deal. And I'll tell you what's cool about those conferences where I met you, and it's always the people that come up to me and say, hey, I'm really interested, but I've never had experiences like you. And, they're the ones, but they've got this big Artron energy coming off of them. I can feel it. And I'll ask them, say, have you ever seen a UFO? Well, yeah, actually a couple of times. I said, a situation, did you see it? And maybe other people couldn't. Well, actually, yeah, one time I was pointing it out, nobody could see it. And it's at that point there on the super conscious level, okay, when we start really dealing with beings that are vibrationally faster than us, or frequency different, but faster, a higher vibration, when we start actually dealing with them, you know what I mean? It makes it to where the retainment of memory is different too, is difficult as well. But it also is, I don't know. You feeling what I'm saying? As far as
I am. Well, I have to ask you. You've shook my hand. We've hugged many times. Do I give off the good stuff?
Absolutely. Because to be honest with you, no offense, brother, but I don't pull any punches. When I first met you, I thought you were kind of a little rude.
I'm a dick.
I mean, but we'd never met, and we never actually talked. And then we had the encounter, and then you shocked me so much when you got up there and asked me that question. And that's when you want to go out and talk later. And that's when I got a feel for you. I didn't actually get it once I got to interact with you. And to me, you feel like somebody who's seen a lot. I don't know if you talk about that, but I know you've seen a lot. And I watched you start having paranormal events where we were at. And where we were at, you have to be kind of somebody who's a higher vibration, and stuff will start happening to you out there. You know what I mean? And you saw stuff going around in the field, or the orbs and all that stuff, that it goes beyond perception. So I think that kind of thing follows you around. You might, have that impression on other people. You have a big effect on people.
That's
very
true.
Interesting.
I know that if you don't know me, or the way that I appear, or the perception, is I can be a dick, but it's not it's not that I am a dick. I'm dickish, because I don't have time for BS. I want the truth, and I'm trying to weed through this crazy thing that we're all involved in, and I'm trying to get to the other side. And I've encountered too much, and I stand up for this community. I stand up for it, man.
I'll tell you something else really cool I've never told you. So before I went to, because that was maybe the only second time I'd spoken at any of these conferences, and we met as a second time out there for me. And brother, be a little bit nervous, because, like I said, it's not like there's a lot of brothers out there or at any of those things,
Right.
But before I went to that one, my siblings are much older than me. One 18, 16, and then 13 years older than I. My closest to me, my brother Mitch, was saying, "Man, who's the guy on that deal, Jimmy Church guy?" I said, I really don't know. He goes, "Man, I think you're supposed to meet him." He said, I think
really? Is that true?
He said, "Man, I think that's somebody you're going to be cool with." He said, "You don't know who he is?" I said, "I think maybe he's like coast to coast or something." And that's all. But I didn't know. But it's to be like tripped out when I go to those things. I'll be a little bit nervous, but I can always creep around because nobody really knows who I am. So, but I was like, yeah. And then sure enough, we wind up getting together and meeting, and it started making sense then. I was like, okay, that's what my brother was seeing. We were supposed to work together. Pretty cool, man.
your brother. That's pretty trippy. Let's do this with our limited time. I want to touch upon a few things.
Cool.
For those that may not have heard your story, I want to do an abridged, brief version of your childhood, the events with your then girlfriend in the car. We'll start as at childhood, but we'll go through those together and set that up so everybody can get a foundation for the rest of our conversation tonight.
Right on.
And if that's okay, there's too many out there that may, or that know your name, but they don't know the whole story and stuff. And then there's others here that love you and know your story that want you to tell it again too as well. So
you sure about that, man? Making me throwing carrots.
I know. But let's start off at the playground. How old were you?
At that point, that would have been a little bit further into experiences. I would have been, oh gosh, almost 7 and about 6, 7 years old.
Yeah, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah, because it would have been first grade. So
okay, and then what was first, the bike ride, the encounter in front of your house, or the playground?
The encounter in front of my house, actually.
Okay, let's start there. How old were you in front of your house?
Man, that goes back to, that's some of the first I can remember. That's like 6 years old.
6 years old.
Then it happened. Yeah. Then when I was 7, things really kind of popped off. Several things happened when I was 7. That was
okay. But the front of your house encounter, that's an incredible start to the story. What happened?
God, might even be 5, man. Because my brother was washing his car. And that's the old days. We had the old green hose, this Charger, he's washing in the front. And I was just playing on the curb there. And I would do this deal that I would try to make little sand bridges and stuff to stop the water from going down while he was washing, like it was going to flood the world or something. And this individual pulls up, another kid, I thought it was a kid, pulls up on this. It's like one of those old Schwinn's. And he's got a hat on with these, like, what my mom called kitty cat glasses. And something I'll say about these beings, okay, is that when he was interacting with me, I didn't understand this wasn't like fully a human. And my brother was right there, so he didn't see this being as anything but probably a kid too. And it says something about what these beings can do through the optic nerves to us consciously at projecting some things that they might not fully be. You know what I mean? So anyway, he's just playing with me. But here's the thing: he's telepathic. And at that point, between 5, even 7, 8, 9, you think that maybe other people were. I was telepathic, and then I find out later other people couldn't do it. And and I asked, like, what school do you go to? Where are you from? There's only 2 places. He said, actually, I'm over. He said, I don't go to either school, not your school, not the other one. I asked. As I'm here visiting family. And again, I thought this was a kid because he's helping me build the little sand bridges. And I thought maybe it was important to him as it was to me. But that's just, in a way, I think that they start beginning interactions. You know what I mean? Right. And the next one you want to know is when I get a little bit older, probably like probably close to 7 there, I was about to get pushed off the slide. And he had stopped. He had stopped somebody from pushing me off the slide. And same
thing. He had the glasses on, hoodie.
Yeah, no. He actually had a backpack on that day, like a t-shirt and a backpack. And I remember him like running and jumping, and like kind of jumping unusually long way, and it kind of scared me a little bit. But things like that, we see things, and I remember it was during conferences. My mom was in there talking to the teacher. So there's, some of us out there playing and stuff, being supervised. So that's, one instance there. But that, is dealing with that individual at that point. I didn't know that this was some sort of insectoid till he made that jump. I remember saying, "You like some sort of bug," and it scared me. Get away, And so I ran over to where the other kids were, and then he went on. I did not see him again for years, okay, until what I would term, I don't know if you want to go there yet, but it's the acid rain experience is what I call it. And that happened to me in the 6th grade.
In school. That's right. Okay. So between that period of 7 and 6th grade, did you have any other encounters in contact?
After 6th grade, they kind of calmed down. After I was about just a little older than 12, they calmed down till I was about actually 17. And then they started up again, especially in 18, 19, 20s, that it ramped up. And that's when it ramped up to what I call adult onset experiences that included missing time. And that was someone, and it was very bizarre, but they weren't like technically abductions. And when I was trying to find other people that are having these experiences, all I kept coming across was abductions and all this negative stuff, you know. So that between that and not seeing someone that looked like me, it was disturbing, you know. But something else I want to throw in there too, all right? In childhood, something that I'm not special by any way. And I think I've always said since the beginning we've been talking that I think, you know, 75-80% of our population are contactees.
For sure.
And it happens on that level that is so fast that they don't know. So that's what something I was saying when I stopped talking earlier. Like somebody that has that Artron energy, and I'll ask them if they saw a UFO, and they say yeah, and other people didn't see it. And you know, then I might say, you know, then a couple of days later, did you have maybe weird dreams? You know, but the fact is, when you're super conscious that records everything and subconscious is looking at that thing, you've got beings that are transmitting information. I know the popular word is what download. That download is coming at that frequency so fast that it makes the retention of memory somewhat difficult, but there's a time lag. And the next night or 2 nights, 3 nights later, you might be having weird dreams or dreams that you're someone different, somewhere, you know, somewhere odd. And the fact is that we wouldn't think that in the terms of a Star Trek way, you wouldn't think that a total federation was stopping what they were doing, or whatever term you want to use. Entire civilization is stopping what they're doing to collectively talk to collectively contact you on the collective level. You know, you don't think that's exactly what's happening a lot right now.
Yeah,
and that's real contact.
And you don't, you're not able to, you specifically, but others, to talk about this and understand this until you've had a long period of experiences. So you can look back and like start to put all of these pieces together. How old were you when the Omni magazine incident happened with your mom?
Well, I'll be honest, man. I obsessed, my friend. I obsessed. I was obsessed. I was trying to figure out what happened to me, trying to turn rather consciously. I mean, I was trying everything to figure out what the heck was going on. It was, I mean, the amount of time I spent on the microfiche. You remember those things? How hot those things got
at the library? Yeah,
yeah.
The old version of the internet.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That was really scrolling, like for sure. How old are you?
The Omni magazine. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was joking around. Okay. That happened actually when I was about 32, and my mother calls me up and says that she would come over. There's like some stuff that'd been over there, you know, for a decade and whatever, that took a couple of decades that she was going to throw out. And it was just a couple of boxes, and one of them was boxes of it was Omni magazine. I always liked that as a kid because there was a part in the middle that was called antimatter section, and the antimatter section.
Antimatter was the shit.
You read it too. All right, on man. Yeah.
I couldn't wait. But I got Omni magazine. I went straight to antimatter.
That was the whole reason for getting it. There'd be other cool stuff in there, but antimatter, you know, that's the first that's the first time I heard about Whitley Strieber, Billy Myers, all those cases was in antimatter. You know what I mean? Yeah. And anyway, so I was looking at one of them, and this one had a bunch of different UFOs on like 2 pages at some point in one of these. And my mother was walking behind me with her laundry basket, and she goes, "Oh," she points down, "That looks like the one you and I saw." And then she kept walking the basket. I turned around, looked at her, I said, "What?" And you know, and she turns around, she goes, "You know what I'm talking about? When I was taking you to get that other Stretch Armstrong thing," and I remember that. And she goes, "You remember Stretch Armstrong? You don't remember that UFO?" And she goes, "Mr. Creepy Star Trek memory." And it disturbed me a bit because I had to. Mom would only allow you to ask so many questions before she got irritated. But I got a few, and I remember telling my brother Mitch, and I was like, "Man, it's almost like I didn't see that thing." Mama had a jar in my memory. And he started going, "Hell yeah, you saw it, man. You both talked to me to death about it when I got home." He said, "I'll never forget it." He said, "You definitely saw it, man." So that led into something else, and only during encounters with these beings or that technology do I have a missing time. Okay, outside of
we set the stage for that. We're gonna circle back to Omni magazine, everybody, in the mall, and Stretch Armstrong a little bit later. But now, okay, so let's back up a little bit and let's go to the playground. He jumps, and from that period until 6th grade with the acid rain, you probably felt different. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but then the acid rain thing happens, which was a very, very well, I'll let you tell the story, but that's pretty bizarre. And as an adult looking back, that's a real head scratcher.
Well, it's something I'm spirits and want me to mention this because there's probably people in your audience that many of us that were in some type of a school where we were kids, you wake up not at home in like some sort of a room or something where there's things you can do telepathically, like psychokinetically, stuff on a desk or in a school with other people. A lot of, for me, it was this place that was doing this psychokinetic type of energy or work or like manipulation. Like it started off like move this feather. Then there's like a bowl of water. You got to start like kind of make the water kind of stir. And then the third would be these silver balls, like those 4 of them, 6 of them that you got to make them start levitating. You could do it mentally. And you see, and then I thought that, man, it's stuff that was like, man, sometimes I got a real good imagination, but it would feel like I wasn't sleeping at night sometimes, and this would happen. Okay, so that's something I think is real common. A lot of people have, and I tripped out, and I think Whitley Strieber was the first person I heard mentioning something similar to that type of a school. He's calling it a mystery school. So that's just something I think many of us go through in terms of our experiences. So I just wanted to mention to throw that in. Going forward, sorry about that. The acid rain, this happened to me in the 6th grade. And you're right, I was getting a little older than to where, and I'll be honest, I thought I was kind of heavy. Okay, I watched Doctor Who and I watched all this. I read a lot of stuff, so I thought I was kind of heavy. And what happens is I wake up on board this craft. And on board this craft is like this back room is this huge engine configuration thing. Okay, this crystal engine type thing. Actually, I'll just show it. I happen to have it right here. That's like in one of those back rooms. This thing was huge, but we can talk about that another time. But in this front room, there's this monitor. Okay, and there's this being, this insectoid being, kind of floating over the deck plates. It has on this white uniform. And when I say insectoid, this being to me looked decisively, first it was about my size when I was in the 6th grade. It wasn't much bigger than me. Okay, it's a little smaller maybe. But it looked like, when I say insectoid, it wasn't what's so commonly referred to as the mantids or praying mantis. This being looked like a grasshopper or a locust, okay, without the antenna. And like kind of with these milky eyes, and it felt ancient. But by the same token, this energy, it's the same individual who was making dams with me. Okay,
on the bike.
The same individual who had come that was on the playground. But I just saw no wings or anything. It was on this uniform, but it felt very ancient. And and something I will say that I think a lot of us will experience is that when you're doing telethought with these beings, it's coming in telepathy telethought, he was answering my questions before I could formulate them in my mind. And that was a bit disturbing and takes a second to get used to. And when I look at this screen, Jimmy, okay, this monitor, I can see outside, looks like we're over some type of a snow mountain pass. Never seen anything like that. But there are these other ships, like 2 other ships back there. They're really large, and it looks like they're picking up, like they're sucking up smog almost into their underbellies. And then there's a light emitting out after that. And he starts putting in my mind that one is, I call it the M&M effect, that the metals and microwaves in our atmosphere are very dangerous, and that the acid rain was very dangerous. Acid rain, and that they were they were trying to convert it, but they were having like some problem, something that all came in so fast, But I was always tripping like, am I being lied to? Just because you're feeling a loving energy, and I spent a lot of my times interrogating at first, who are you, what are you, and asking questions like that before I can formulate it. just to make sure this isn't some sort of demonic encounter or something, just because you're feeling the love, but it wasn't, obviously something totally different, But anyway, so this experience happens. About a week later, it's on a Friday. On Fridays, the teacher, the 6th grade, Miss Crow, she had us read this thing called the Scholastic News. Probably
Man,
still
exists. Is that still around?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Man, wasn't that a great day in class? You got the new Scholastic News.
It was, except for sometimes she would make somebody get up there and read out loud. And you know how that is. Everybody like, oh, you can't read. All you gonna do is mess up one word,
Do you remember? We're going to circle back. You're just bringing back memories. Do you remember being able to order books, and that you get the catalog, and you could order books, right?
Yeah,
And that was part of it. It was that whole weekly reader program, and then so you get the weekly reader, but then like maybe twice a year you get to order books. Oh man,
they would even connect that to like the book fairs they would have for us. That's the way I started being able to get UFO books was that way. Exactly how you're talking about. Yeah. God, UFOs Unexplained, my first book.
I sound so old. I know.
Right,
kids
these days. You only got a few years on me, brother. It's all right.
I know. No, kids, do they even have books, or is everything iPads now? Probably all iPads.
I imagine where we're losing touch of things like that. You remember that Twilight Zone with Burgess Meredith, where he was, on trial. What are you? You're a librarian? They were dogging him hard, man. Said he was what was it? Insufficient. And anyway, but we're going back to that acid rain. So I'm reading this article, and I'll never forget it, because on the front of the Scholastic News is the Statue of Liberty. And the main article that she's having me reading is about, at that time, parts of the Statue of Liberty was shut down because they were repainting it and renovating it I remember reading it, and it said for this damage caused by acid rain. I remember kind of yelling it out when I said the word, and people started laughing a little, like I was playing around. But I was truly shocked. You know what I mean? When I saw that. And that's when things went from me being maybe just this cat with a super good imagination, really, really good, like physical imagination, to this being into my daily life. I knew it was real, beyond a doubt at that point. And this being and giving me information I didn't even know about. Like, for example, when I was going to try to ask, where are you from? I'm getting in my mind, you won't understand. But then I'll come back, oh, I'm heavy. Tell me. And it's like, since, go 800 million light years out past the space-time continuum. What I didn't know what the heck that meant. I didn't know. He's right. And so since you don't understand, they're coming in my mind, focus on the third and fourth bases outside of Pluto. We've got there bases there that are points of jumping off into your solar system, because there's problem with the density and with the field of energy that surrounds your planet and your atmosphere, or your solar system, that kind of aids, I think, in wiping our soul life memories when we incarnate here. It's something happens. You know what I mean? It's not fully. I do a lot of past life regression work now, so it doesn't always come up or something, but it is something that might happen when we incarnate that helps us not know who we are and not have access to our soul life memories on the immortal soul level. Anyway.
How did you feel? I know you're young. It's 6th grade. 6th grade for me was kind of like the turning point of like starting to feel a little more grown up. But how did you feel when suddenly you had this reality check? With acid rain being shown it before, and then now reading about it in class. Did you understand the significance of that moment? How did you feel?
I was blown away. And like I said, I started obsessing. You know what I mean? To a point where I was thinking, something like this happens to me again, I'm going to try to grab something from somewhere around and get something so I can prove this stuff is happening. You know what I mean? And I wanted to know why. I mean, it started me into a real obsession at that point. That's the only way I could really describe it, to where, I was reading everything I could. I would get guided to things. You know what I mean? Like the things that are so important now in like the circles that we deal with. Something like somebody else is on the moon. I got that. I picked that when I was able to ride my bike to the library. It's like a couple blocks away. I was being guided to this, or the ring makers of Saturn. And you know that was different because I was young enough. That was kind of Bergen was dealing with a lot of telemetry in that book. I had a hard time understanding it at that age, and how he was saying he thought that there were these huge vehicles out there manufacturing or mining the rings of Saturn. And now later he got famous for mentioning about in a naval yard, the ship coming down, and as you just mentioned, tall blacks getting off. You know, and it was kind of funny when he said it. The person interviewed him and said, "Do you mean brown people?" No, they were black.
Oh, hey, Barry.
Yeah.
Check this out. Real brief. I'm just gonna make this, but I have to share this with you because of what we were talking about earlier. I got regressed by Sarah Breskman Cosme for my TV show, right?
Oh, really?
And guess what happened, man? You
What's
don't
that?
know about this.
No.
Dude, I was taken aboard a craft and there was 3, 6, 9, 11 beings there. 9 of them were seated, 2 were standing. They were black. Yeah.
Describe them, bro.
And this is the crazy thing. They were just real brief. I'm asking you if you've ever heard of anything like this. I haven't.
This is important.
So they were tall and thin. I only saw them just for 5 seconds or so, but I look, and the 2 that were standing in the middle of the room, talking to each other, and the one with his back to me turns like this and looks at me and gives me a nod, and then he goes back to talking. But I got to look at his face, and so his head, all of their heads were like egg shaped, like ovals, and black arms, black, just black, and they were a little bit distorted, like fuzzy on the outside, you know, like the edge, like I don't know how to explain it. Not like fur, not fuzzy, like fur fuzzy, like a stuffed animal. Not like that. They were like but all around the edges, they were like a little out of focus. But I could see the eyes. The eyes were like normal human eyes, white. I could see that. I couldn't see colors or anything. But it seemed like there was some red around. I remember that. I could see as they talked, and they spoke English. And when their lips moved, I could see the inside of their mouth was red. You know what I mean? Like like on the inside, I could see that. I couldn't see ears. I couldn't really make out a nose or anything like that. They were distance from it. But anyway, black. It was trippy, man.
Were they smaller, taller?
No, taller than me. I'm 6 foot, so they were taller than me.
And with the furry appearance that you're talking about, and the actual shape
not
of the head,
furry, not furry, not furry. I didn't see. I was on the edges, on the outside of them. They were like out of focus.
Oh, out of focus. I thought you said that's
fuzzy, not furry.
Fuzzy.
I didn't say furry.
Muffle.
Fuzzy, like
okay.
fuzzy.
So they couldn't pass walking down here. They'd be noticeable, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But
okay,
they had arms. They had arms, legs, tall and thin. All, you know, they had everything that we had, from what I could tell. I couldn't see, like I said, I couldn't like see ears. I don't really remember, but nothing freaked me out. That was the thing. I wasn't scared, but they were black.
When did this happen? When did this happen to you? I mean, not the regression, but
I know
the experience itself.
The experience itself was 3 years ago, which I don't remember that either. That's the thing. I didn't know. I can tell you exactly. Man, you're my guest. But anyway,
I think that's what's interesting to bring this up, because that's something that has changed since we talked to each other. See, and it's something I got exposed for, and it's that I'm a hypnotist, and I would never tell anybody, because it's like I don't do QHHT, and I'm not, and I didn't go to one of these great schools or something. It was something I practiced a long time, got these workshops, and met some real master hypnotists, and I learned how to do it, you know. And I do past life regressions, I do ET regressions, and some of the stuff that comes up. I also do what's called earthbound spirit release and rescue. I've done probably over 600 earthbounds I've crossed over now. We've all got them attached to us. And it's so odd, because part of my story is also, you know, I'm a medium. Every psychic is not a medium, but every medium is a psychic, meaning you can detect the dead. And for me, you know, then at the age, you know, when I was 7, I got attacked by earthbounds, by a ghost. It didn't join with me, but it was very disturbing. I tried to shut that off. And then I have a car accident in 2010. And that's the only reason that we even got to meet each other, because I died in this accident. Something weird happened. And then I wind up getting exposed as a contactee later on. You know what I mean? But it gave me my own NDE, and studying the death process and stuff. It gave me kind of an affinity for working with the earthbounds. And developing my own system, because I did cognitive behavioral with like youth and psychology, and I've combined that with hypnosis.
Barry, I used to call bullshit on that stuff, right? Regression and this and that, and mediums and psychics. I mean, I was okay with it. I was fascinated with it, but I was more intrigued and entertained by it. But I really was okay. So, but over the last, 15, 20 years, I've had my share of experiences, and I understand it better now. But going into this, I had no memory. And so while I was in the session, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't remember it. And so I'm in the session, and this voice, my higher self, whatever, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But this voice says, Jimmy doesn't know about this. And I'm listening, and I'm hearing, I'm like, who's talking? What's going on? Who's talking? And so the experience, the reason why I said it was 3 years ago, it was with Billy Carson. And what had happened was Billy and I were with 20 friends, okay? And we go on this trip together. And we go to Palm Springs. And we're on top of this mountain, that giant rock, and we're having dinner. And we take my Jeep and stuff, and we drove up on the top of this mountain, and we're up there with chairs. We have night vision. There's 20 of us, and we're having fun. And this is what happens. From the west, this gold light pops up, and we're all looking at it. There, like I said, there's 20 of us, and I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. And it's low, and it's coming across right over us, and then it stops, and it's big, and it's low, and it's a gold ball. That's the only way I can describe it. A glowing gold ball.
Almost plasma-like?
No, it was more like a headlight, like a gold headlight, but it's low. And it's bright, and it's right above us, and we're all standing there, right? There's 20 of us. We're all looking at it. And Billy, he's standing next to me. He goes, well, that's not an airplane. And while we're all looking at it, it just goes, not very fast, but it goes and disappears into the stars. And we're like, wow. Okay, so now back to the regression. That's what I remember from that night. I wasn't abducted. Nothing happened or anything. But back to the regression. In the regression, at that moment that Billy and I looked up, boom, they took me on the ship. And that's what was revealed to me. And that's why I was only there on the ship. And I hear everybody and stuff. But then I'm back in my body and I'm on the ground. So after I do the regression, I called Billy. I go, dude, remember that time we were on the mountain? He goes, yeah. And I said, and that thing, yeah. And you said it's not an area. Yeah. I said, was I acting strange? He goes, no. Did anything, was there any gaps or anything? No. But I really wasn't looking at you. We were all looking, at the object. I said, okay, that's all. He goes, why? I go, man, I really don't want to talk about it, man. But something might have happened. I was just regressed, but I just wanted to hear from you if I was acting strange. But that's when it was. Yeah, it was crazy. Now it's unlocked. The memory is unlocked. I have it.
What happened to you is exactly what I was describing. When it happens on that faster vibration. And listen, I want everyone to be aware, okay? Calling this out right now, okay? It's me you're talking to, Barry Littleton, but you're talking about seeing black extraterrestrials after seeing a UFO with Billy Carson. So everybody hears that. Jimmy Church has said that he got a regression. That's connected. That's real interesting, okay? And I know that's going to go hard, and that's going to probably go viral. But man, I'll tell you what, that's the way that the first contact is happening right now. It's happening, and it's so subtle. You know what I mean? That it happens on that higher vibration. That's the thing, and for example, I'll ask you a question, Jimmy. Would you recommend regressions for people? You get a good regressionist? Do you feel it's worth it?
If it's somebody that you trust, right? Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of hoodwinky shyster bullshit that goes on in that realm.
Oh,
but a really good therapist, a really good therapist and a good regressionist is unbelievable. It's an unbelievable experience for me, though. I would do it again, but and I enjoyed the experience, but it was exhausting. I was not prepared for how drained I was. I couldn't imagine doing that once a week or a couple times a year. It was like, it was a lot. And I'm still unpacking the experience. And that was, I did the regression. I think that was the second season of Into the Vortex. So that was probably 2 years ago. And well, wait a minute. I did. Yeah. It was probably 2 years ago. I did the regression. It's all a blur to me now. I did 2 seasons of Into the
I think
Vortex.
something has happened to you before that too. That's why I picked that Artron energy off of you. That's just confirmation, and it's like I said, so many people have had contact, and it's wonderful. The only thing that is odd that's a shame is that we're just not like that all the time and able to perceive that other part of thing that's happening on that other level of us, on that super, there's all sorts of words for it, Jimmy, the divine over self, the super conscious, the divine over self, all these things. I prefer the term super conscious. It's a part of us that's kind of still in perfection with the creator, and it still has access to all of our immortal life experiences. It records everything. The subconscious does to a degree, but the superconscious, really, when you start getting to deep theta, almost delta, you start accessing that. It's really interesting. So I commend you for doing it, and you found something out, and I think that's very important, because it's enough people don't talk about melanin dominant extraterrestrial contact. Like for example, the Pleiadians. You've got some of the Aboriginals that say that we were seeded here by the Pleiadians. We're the first Pleiadian here, and we look just like them. That means the first Pleiadians here were extremely melanin dominant, but we don't hear nothing about that. They all look like Christy Brinkley.
Hold on, Christy Brinkley. What, the fat one or the skinny one? The fat one or the skinny one? So, Barry texted me last week, and this is how Barry texted me. Hey, Jimmy, it's your favorite melanin dominant brother. How you doing? Happy holidays. Oh man. Oh man. So but here's the other part. We did that for the TV show. So we had camera and lights and makeup people and producers and assistants and all of that stuff going on around us, and multiple cameras, and we're in a studio. Now everybody left and they were behind the glass. We were in there alone, but that's a lot of pressure. I didn't know. I've never been regressed, so I didn't know if this was even going to work, and we're rolling cameras and everything else. Barry, I went under in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Rapid instant induction. Yeah.
Gone. I couldn't believe it. When she brought me out, like 3, 2, 1, right, and did that, and I opened my eyes. I had my hands on my chest like this. I was in that position for so long that I couldn't unlock my fingers. They were dead. They were asleep. And I was like, how long was I what? Okay. And I kind of had to get my bearings and look around like, oh shit.
Man, that is really a great story, my friend. Because you illustrated everything I was talking about in terms of, especially, you know, your super conscious, or maybe your subconscious, chose that event. You remember seeing the thing, but you never thought much more about it. Just you saw something cool, a weird light, and then life just goes on. You know, kind of like somebody might see a Sasquatch and life just goes on or something. You know what I mean? But then you see, when you focused in on it, something did happen on the super conscious, subconscious level, and you accessed that. And you had a complete encounter, and you know, in that way, you can only grow from that, and it pushes your consciousness further or forward. You know what I mean? So that's a great story, man. Thank you for sharing.
One other thing before we head to the break. Before that experience of going through that, the way that I would ask people questions about their experience. So what did you smell? What did you see? Was there pictures on the wall? Were they playing Van Halen in the background? What did you eat? What did they, blah, 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 blah. People now that I've gone through the experience, those questions are not relevant because I can't answer any of them. I just can't. I can get to the small details about me and things, but I didn't see any walls. I didn't see any windows. I saw there was like 3 I don't know how to control panels. I didn't see any light. Nobody was flipping switches and flying the crowd. I didn't see anything like that. But they were all sitting down, but I wasn't looking at them like studying. And I scanned around the room. I see these 2 guys are talking that are standing in the middle. But here's the crazy, the one detail. There was a guy, E.T., with his back to me, and the room was quiet except for him, and he was talking. And so I kind of stopped. It was only 5 seconds. I just looked around the room, but I stopped at him for a second, and I could hear him, and he was leaning forward and talking, I would say into a microphone, but I didn't see a microphone, but it looked like he was leaning into talking. And I could hear him talking. Do I say radio? I don't know. But he's like this. He's talking in Californian. He goes, Barry, you just can't make shit up. This is what I heard. He goes, kind of like, I'm paraphrasing. Hey, man, what's going on? Good to see you. Yeah, man, good to see you too. All right, man. So what's going on? Everything's cool. All right. You know, and I hear him talking like that. So I don't know if they were flying over and this was a normal path or a normal route, but he sounded like he was talking to an air traffic controller on the ground that he was friends with. That's what I heard. That was the vibe I got. And here's one last thing, and then we'll move on. We'll get to a break, and we'll come back to you. I was not scared. I was not freaked out. It was really weird. I wasn't scared at all.
Real quick, did they feel during this regression, did they feel physical to you?
It was just as real as you and I sitting here right now.
Right on.
Yeah.
You know, because something else I want to throw in too is that something that we have to kind of start dealing with, and I think you'll see this coming up more as time goes on, is that a lot of times, and I know some people don't like when I say this, but we're dealing with beings that are coming from consciousness sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that it's actually, the whole contact thing is really a conscious event. And the fact that you saw that out there, what you're describing, is a type of a conscious energy type of craft that you had an encounter with. Doesn't change it either one way or the other, but it just adds to the whole spectrum of what we're dealing with concerning contact, even though it happens in maybe what we would consider a millisecond. That's what happened to you. But that's because you're dealing with beings at a faster vibration than us. But consciously, you recorded all that stuff and you accessed it. And I think it's very healthy for people to do that. You know what I mean? Maybe that's how we change this society. It's consciously happening now. And the internet and everything and what you're doing, it just helps it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right about that. Well, when they said, the third person said, Jimmy doesn't know about this. Jimmy doesn't remember this. And I was like, remember what? And then there it was, right? The whole thing just replayed. And I like, it's like Star Trek, man. I don't know, right? Teleporter. And I'm standing there and I go around the room and I just kind of look around the room. That guy waves his head at me. And I'm looking at the closest guy to me right here. And I go back to the two that are in the middle of the room. And the one with this, or what gave me one of these, like, see you later. And I was gone. It was weird. They knew I was coming up. They knew I was leaving. It was bizarre, man. It was bizarre.
Before you break, what do you feel that the reason for the experience was and the meaning of it, if you got one?
Well, part of that was discussed in the regression. I'd have to go back and actually watch the tapes of it again, but there was, I guess, the overarching thing was that soon that they were thankful for my attitude. Okay. And that there was that, but they said that soon those that do not understand or believe contact or disclosure will soon be able to touch and feel it. And that was a weird thing. That was now, I'm not saying that they said I was going to be a part of that. Nope. I don't even, I'm not that important.
I think it's too late for that, bro. I think that's too. I think you're already behind the ball on that, man.
but touch and feel, that they would need to touch and feel it to believe it, and it seemed strange to me at the time, but man, that makes perfect sense. You know, for those that just it's bullshit until you can. Right. Go through the experience and touch and feel it. Let's take our break. Our guest tonight, Barry Littleton. When we come back, we're gonna go on a date with him and his girlfriend in his car. Oh man, this is crazy. Barry, you stay right there, my friend. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to churchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. I am hosting, speaking, and presenting once again for the Conscious Life Expo, the largest conference of its type in the world. February 20th through the 23rd, 2026 at the LAX Hilton. Speakers, event, and schedule easy. Just visit ConsciousLifeExpo.com. I will be hosting and speaking at the Sedona Ascension Retreat, March 20th through the 22nd, 2026 in Sedona, Arizona. An amazing list of speakers, and it's beautiful Sedona. Come and hang out with us and just go to SedonaAscensionRetreats.com. Back to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd, 2026 in Delavan, Wisconsin at the Lake Resort. It is beautiful. This is a great conference right in the heart of the Midwest, where I'm from. I'll see you there. Just go to Contact Modalities Expo, that's XPO.com. I will be hosting and presenting once again at Contact in the Desert. That's May 28th through June 1st, 2026, the largest UFO conference in the world. Come and hang out with us June 23rd through July 1st. Tickets and everything else that you need is at contactinthedesert.com. Want to change your life? Want that paradigm shift? Then visit Peru with Brian Forrester and myself for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, June 23rd through July 1st, 2026. A full 10 days of visiting the country, all of the amazing sights, and of course, the celebration of the winter solstice. It's all simple to do. Go to hiddenincatours.com. Come join us for the Monty Python Scotland Tour, August 1st through the 9th, 2026. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event where you get to go to the castles from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. August 1st through the 9th, 2026. Just visit HaleyARamsey.com. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's fade to black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to JimmyChurchRadio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. Jimmy Church, Gaia TV, Fade to Black, here at Machu Picchu with Brian Forrester and Hidden Inca Tours. Amazing tour so far, Brian, but we're here to announce what we're going to do next year in 2026. What's going on?
Okay, November 2026, we're going to have our major tour of Peru and Bolivia, either a pre or post tour of Paracas and Nazca on the coast. And then after that, stays in Easter Island.
Bucket list, Easter Island. Come join Brian and I and his amazing team here at Hidden Inca Tours for Peru, Bolivia, and Easter Island. Signing out. Say goodbye, Brian.
Bye, gang.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Barry Littleton is here. Great conversation so far. Back to Barry, though. We're going back to Barry. Barry, let's jump in the car and go on a date. This is extraordinary. The entire experience is absolutely extraordinary. And what did you have? Let's back up. In driving to the location, did that evening feel different to you?
You mean when going to where the encounter happened?
Yeah.
That night, no. The first night, no. And this was a deal where I was just dating somebody, and they were it was like the first year outside of high school, and we were like going to go out to this like a spot out somewhere in the country. I found this spot, to quote unquote meditate. But I was 18 years old. That was a little game I was trying to do. I had other things on my mind, obviously. But anyway, so but we get out there and begin to doing a meditation. I used to practice pranayama, a part of Kriya, but specifically pranayama, the retention of breath. And we're doing these meditations, and it started feeling like I was having what the gurus, the swamis, call inward revolution. It started feeling like that. Okay, and when I get through going through this, I open up my eyes, and this light that seems to manifest over this pond, and then focus comes in. It's a ship. Okay, it's a saucer type ship, and I'm showing some pictures of this thing. And on top of it, it's got this light. Okay, like this rod with this light on it, these lights, and the lights are turning, and every time they're turning and like facing, it feels like I'm being tuned in, like a TV channel, like woo, 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 woo. And I can tell you now that I know that rod is called a directional emitter, and not just does it produce a type of plasma that can open up a vortex, but it also attunes to brain waves. And we start dealing with these craft that go through black holes and makos and use that for travel. Okay, those makos, those black holes, Rudy Shields had proven through the data, actually function a lot like brain waves. And that's something we go into a little bit later, but that takes it a little bit off topic. But just there's a reason why that's very connected to brain waves, black holes, and this ship and how it's tuning me in that way. Okay, and that's at a point to where this is happening. I'm in completely contact with this thing. I remember looking over at her, and she's sitting over there like Indian style, kind of doing the breath and kind of meditating. And I tried to say, "Hey, you see this thing out here?" And I remember looking at me, she's going, "No, that's your thing, man. Leave me be." So I didn't say nothing else. And I just let this thing keep tuning me in. Okay, and then that's when I start, start seeing like technology, information. It's all like almost a flash. You know what I mean? And when this is over, it's so quick, but there's 4 hours of time is missing. Little over 4 hours. And after this, when it's like done, I remember her looking at me kind of, did something just happen? I was like, yeah. And we start communicating this information, but before that even, okay, so when this appears to be over, this part of the experience, but the car is turned around, okay? And we did not park that direction. And there's a light to start shining out there, because like during a time when I've gone back into this inward revolution thing after she had asked me if I'd seen it, and I'm having this experience, but after a point there was like a break in the frequency, and I like I was back, I opened my eyes, and she's looking at this thing. And I mean, her head is kind of like almost between the dashboard, there's a Buick between the dashboard and the window, looking at it. And I was like, hey, I tried to tell you that they were there, but you wouldn't listen. So just chill, or you're going to maybe mess this up. And she starts looking at the thing and looking back at me and started kind of hyperventilating a little bit, breathing real heavy. And this thing went, shoo. And it's like around like from the back of us. And like, that's when all of a sudden the car is turned around. I remember her saying this light shining. She's like, I think they want us to go up there. I'm like, man, no way, man. Get in the car. Are you kidding me? I thought it's got to be the sheriff. You know what I mean? that's got the light. We're out in the country out there. It must have been something. I was trying to dismiss what had just happened, although it's fresh upon me. Okay. And that's when I watched this thing, and another one comes up that looks more like a golden ball. And she seems to be mesmerized by this thing. We're staying outside the car looking at it. And I'm watching this metal craft, okay? It starts looking similar to when you have, like, you know how the static on a TV looks? It looks kind of like that around this thing. And then it morphs, and I've got pictures. I'm sorry, I should have had them on. I should have been able to show them to you. I just didn't have it up.
Don't worry about it.
It turns into, okay, like this, you see this static, and then it morphs into this crystalline thing that J.J. Hertog's book, The Keys of Enoch, calls a tri-pyramidal Merkabah. So it looked like these. In fact, I've got one that looks like it here, like this thing, okay? If you were to take this and take a rod and put like 3 more of them, okay, it looked like that. So it looked like almost in that way like a molecule, all right? The difference between this and that thing is that it had a type of bioluminescence or chemical luminescence that's coming from the inside of the ball that's kind of lighting these up a little bit. And this thing was very much felt like it was completely alive. And it's kind of turning in the sky, and it really just tripped me out. Now, I can tell you now, after dealing with Dr. Rudy Shields, who started calling me, we worked together for a little bit, and he helped me understand something, that I was actually witnessing a craft that was going into one of these black holes, and it was doing a pattern of unfoldment to match its destination in another universe that might be based on crystalline. We're based on the spin, but this might be based on crystalline or amorphous. It's something different, you know? And it made more sense then, because I'll tell you, it's one thing for me to sit here and tell you this, okay? It might sound a little cool or whatever, but to witness that craft do that made me actually, it pushed me to the brink, okay? And then to make it worse, when you get, after this is over, we're trying to get back to town so I can write this down, record this stuff. We got all this information. And then the further you get from the event horizon, the memories start fading a bit. And that's disconcerting. Did you wipe our mind or something like that? No, it's the difference in vibration. It makes the retention of memory difficult, you know? Real quick, something I'll say about these black holes, okay? Rudy calls them magnetically eternally collapsing objects, MACOs. And that when you have actually a black hole, that you have an object that goes through it, okay, there is a perfect copy on the surface. And they call that the quantum hologram. And that's actually what the MACO, the organism, the system inside of the actual black hole itself, the MACO, is what stores the information. Okay, so in that way, the universe, the information that goes through there they're like the black hole, they're like the hard drives of the universe. And so you may have civilizations, Jimmy, that no longer exist, but they still exist within that quantum hologram. Now,
well, Stephen Hawking talks about that. He said, and other physicists too, as well,
yeah,
that information never disappears. Information is always retained. And so when we talk about a black hole and spaghettification and the ripping apart of, okay, but information stays and is retained. So it's Rudy, one thing, you one thing, yes, but science supports what you are discussing.
Yeah, that he did based on the data he was getting from the observatories. But here's one thing I'll throw in, okay, is that when dealing with these black holes, okay, they have they function by these things they're calling conscious waves, okay, and the conscious waves can occur like spherical, okay, or helical. But in the case for us, okay, we have these things in the body called microtubules. For what I'm talking about here, Jimmy, we're going to relegate it to the microtubules of the brain, okay, which takes us into the mirror neuron network. And when just me explaining this right now, how you can see it is also similar to how what we're talking about, the black hole itself, okay, and how it actually the same deal. But the thing about the the microtubules of the brain is that they're spherical. Okay. So therefore, if we're going to access one of these MACOs, it'd be done through brain waves and the microtubules in that way. So, you know, it's one thing to hear when we hear people talking about the Akashic records, the space, the records of space and time. They're accessed consciously, but really, what are they? They're these MACOs. That's what it is. And think of like the information of the universe spiraling around like the accretion disk, but it's different. It's the information. It's that quantum hologram. So we may have civilizations, Jimmy Church, that are like what Michio Kaku calls what type 3, type 4, type 5. They're no longer in existence as we know, but they would still exist within the conscious, within the MACO, the Akashic records. Okay, and they could still access us through the divine field and our brain waves. That's why a lot of this is a conscious experience. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to go too far on that. You know, certain things I start tripping out on black holes.
No. You're right on target. The community and thinkers that deal with this have been discussing consciousness and its implications and so forth for so long, thousands of years. Science has yet to catch up to it. Science is scared of talking about consciousness. And I'm here to tell you, man, when ET arrives, it ain't going to be about faster than light travel and curing cancer and the ills of this planet. It's going to be the discussion about consciousness. And that's where we are as a human race. We need to evolve and get to the next level, and it's consciousnness that's key.
Yes. You know? Consciousness in the words. You know, like for example, what I was explaining, like Rudy, he took interest because he, as a scientist, it was wonderful. I could have talked to him. He's not a contactee, but he's a scientist, and certain things about my experiences caught his attention. Like for example, he asked me, he said, "Barry, what was that thing like when the experience was over? What happened when it was over?" And I said, well, you know, it's like this thing it was all lit up, and it's like somebody just turned the light off, and all I could see was the silhouette, and then it disappeared. And he started his voice. That's exactly what you should have said. That's exactly what you should have said, Barry. I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, that was the quantum hologram you were seeing. That thing had already went and done its jump to its another universe through that MACO you couldn't see, but that was the quantum hologram that you saw at the end that disappeared. So think of it in that way, like when you see a UFO, you might see one, then all of a sudden there's two, then there's one, then that one's gone. That's that same thing we're talking about with the quantum hologram, the mirror neuron network. It's all connected, my friend.
Hey, have you I want to get to some other stuff here in a second.
Right.
Have you watched the docuseries Center Seat about Star Trek?
No.
Okay, go. Just it's a series. But they talk about the evolution of Star Trek, you know, from the beginning. And
the name of it one more time, my friend, was it?
Center Seat. You know, the captain's chair, the center seat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Go and check that out, man. You'll really dig it. You'll dig it. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the gold. I'm still a fan of the golden age of Trek. You know, I need to adjust a little bit more and get more up to date. But
the two new series. There's others out right now, but Strange New World, man, it is so good.
You like that one?
Yeah.
Is that the one with Pike?
Yeah. And I got to tell you, man, I dig Pike. I didn't think I dig him. I like Pike. I like anyway. I don't want to get.
He was always a good written character, actually. And William Shatner got lucky. He got lucky.
Yeah, he got real lucky. Well, see, so in Strange New Worlds with Pike, you know, if you're new to it all, Pike is a new character, right? Because we all know about Captain Kirk. Go and watch. When you watch Center Seat and you go back to the original series and the original pilot that they shot to get the series sold, that was with Pike. That wasn't with Kirk. Kirk wasn't. Yeah. I didn't. So anyway, go check out Center Seat, and I dig the new stuff. I want to jump into modern, where we are today. This is an important discussion, and I want to hear from you. What's your stance on the way that the Pentagon and the media, the congressional hearings are dealing with the subject of UFOs and UAPs in contact? What do you think is going on?
Oh, was it Gretel and Hansel that had the breadcrumbs? I mean, it's it's the minimal that they're giving us as far as disclosure goes. It's just enough to keep people wondering. But I mean, when is it going to go to the next level? Like to the things that have been back engineered, some of these deals that have been. I mean, it needs to go a little bit more than just them letting us know that, oh yes, UFOs are really real and we've been studying them and we changed it to UAP. It needs a little bit more than just the TikTok. I mean, you know what I mean? That's great, TikTok, great, but I mean, it's going to be something better than that. And in that way, I think disclosure is very limited. And here is something that really concerns me, okay? And being a contactee, I've tried to reach out and understand things, okay? And knowing, like, for example, not all contact is positive by any means. I am somebody that had positive contact, but actually the majority of us that have had contact, it's positive. But you do have this other abduction and there's a negative faction, things that horrible happens to some people. And I fully acknowledge that, okay? But I'm noticing that there's like narrative rewriting going on. And it is these experiences that seem to be coming from almost a hive mind. And they're things that I think that is really being done by neuroprogramming because we have no real neurocognitive law, okay? And we've got people being implanted with technology. We all got it. And it's a matter of who's activated and who is actually, having these experiences based on that. And I think that needs to be really understood and why that is happening right now, because it's ruining lives. It combines the target individual thing with this whole kind of SSP thing, this super soldier thing. But a lot of that's got to do with neuroprogramming that's happening on a hive mind type of a deal, okay? And we're at a point now with technology, you've got places like a company called Mind Nexus that does these clinics, these scans, and the scan is using something called nonlinear junction detection technology. And that was used to be the things that was used to like sweep rooms for wires, but it can be used on people too. And if you get somebody like a person like in now you're a musician. How do you pronounce this? Antiotic chamber, the anti-echo soundproof chamber. How do you pronounce that? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh no, yeah. No, okay. Let's don't get sideways. But I'm in one of those right here.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you got one of those nonlinear detective scans in there, you should not be emitting like any frequencies, okay, like radio frequencies and things like that. And those ones I'm talking about with the boxes on, you probably something quite similar there. But
right.
So that and that those frequencies can be actually traced back to their origin. You know what I mean? And in that way, we start dealing with neuroprogramming and dream engineering. And what's really happening right now, it's very serious. We don't have any neurocognitive law. And I think that they're using that to rewrite the whole contact scenario, the fake invasion, all this other stuff being thrown in to actually try to change us being a type 1 civilization. And when I say that to you, I think that I do work with this lady named Jessica Jones, friend of mine. She's a remote viewer. She's really good. She trained for years.
Yeah,
and Jimmy, I've given her
I like Jessica.
She's right on.
I've never had her on the show. I like her work. I like her work.
You should. I've given her 90 targets. I think we just did the 90, and they're like blind ones, like who built the Great Pyramid, all different ones. And the information she gets is always a trip. Sometimes I bite off a little more than I could chew on the targets that I select. For example, those bases outside of Pluto, when I got a little older, there was, they started talking about these things called trans-Neptunian objects in the Oort cloud. And there's like 3 and 4, because that being had told me the 3rd and 4th planets outside of Pluto. And at that time, I'm thinking, is you lying to me? Because there's nothing like that. They only had a moon that had been discovered. But years later, there are these two. On 2 of the objects, it was Sedna and Make. I gave her as a blind target, and she saw these bases, and she saw the field of energy. It was a trip, more than what I would think, Or like, for example, the Soho. If you've ever looked at Soho, Jimmy, the Soho website, it shows you in every nanospectrum the sun, that they take pictures of it every so many minutes, and all these different nanospectrums. And there's certain times that you can see like things that look like cubes and spears coming in and out of the sun. On YouTube, some people even got the frames that where you can see what look like Earth directed solar flares being blocked by something or absorbed. Stuff like that is going on around the sun that people are not aware of. But that's something anybody can go to Soho and look at the archives, learn how to manipulate a little bit. You'll find all sorts of stuff in different nanospectrums, especially the green one. Check out the green nanospectrum.
Yeah, I know. I've seen all that stuff. Did you know? I'm going to give you a little Soho fact.
So,
Soho was only supposed to be a 2-year mission.
Really?
Okay. It was launched 30 years ago yesterday.
Gosh, man.
Okay. Or 2 days ago, December 2nd. And it was a 2-year mission. It just celebrated its 30-year anniversary. How crazy, how nuts is that? It's supposed to last for 2 years, 30 years, and still going strong.
Wow.
Still going strong.
It's a great project. It's a great project, I think.
Yeah, it is for sure.
And it's things weaponizing of the sun, and civilizations that use it for transport. That's another black hole going on there, but that's another topic anyway.
I don't discount those ideas because consciousness is first. Consciousness is fundamental. So everything has consciousness, just like our Earth. And whatever this alien hacky sack that I play with during the show, right? Okay, it's conscious, but so is the sun. The sun is alive, man. The sun is alive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big antenna. It's a big antenna. But what about, okay, so you just touched upon this. Why are they setting us up? And I'm talking about the media, congressional hearings, this documentary that just came out, setting up more of the fear narrative that we have something to be scared of. Why implant and get that going with humanity when we haven't seen, there's negative stuff out there for sure, but why set us up with this big fear thing when it comes to UAP and UFOs and contact?
I think it's got to do with, honestly, with enslavement of the human race.
Yeah.
That's what I really think it is. You know what I mean? And when you start dealing with, like, for example, the people that are having the negative experiences, whether they're hive mind, neuroprogrammed, or whatever, I mean, it's changing things in the terms of building this whole huge fear. And I'm just going to throw this out. Maybe look into something that's called digital twin cyborgs, and how actually conscious memories can be transferred into a digital twin. And when you type in digital twin cyborgs, look that up. And what might be happening is that you have people that are getting these experiences, these neuroprogramming experiences. I've had some clients like this, and during regression, they'll be telling me this, Jimmy. They'll say, well, there's two me. There's me here, but there's this other me that flies the ships and builds weapons and has been with hybrids and is a super soldier and things like that. But several clients I've had that explain it as they're two people. I've heard others call them alters. But when you start dealing with the concept of actually downloading memories into a digital cyborg, okay, and then using that to terraform Mars. And what we're looking at is enslavement as we start becoming a type 1 civilization. And this is something I stumbled upon partially accidentally. Okay, when I gave back to Jessica, I gave her this target was TRAPPIST-1. Are you familiar with that?
Of
the
course.
TRAPPIST-1 solar system? Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. It was like the third or fourth. And I wanted to compare it to what that remote viewer that Linda Moulton Howe has. I want to compare them, what the data that she got. And she's coming to saying, where is this? I thought she'd come up with maybe some amphibious type beings or something like that, but she starts describing these mid-rises. And she says, is this a future Earth in the future? And the next thing she starts going to immediately, well, how is slavery being allowed in the city like this? What's it with the slavery? And this was a big thing hitting on. Dealing with somebody, thinking like comparing that to somebody like William Tompkins, who kept saying that, there's a slavery problem in the Milky Way still. We're a more primitive galaxy, and certain races are still dealing with that. And I think that maybe that's what we're seeing in terms of us becoming a type 1 civilization, how you enslave a type 1 civilization before it emerges. So that means the good contact has to be altered. And I'll say one last thing answering your question. I have visions, and I used to really have them a lot more when I was younger. I'd had this vision of these, and I had a couple of times of these huge like Legion ships over 20 or 30 major cities. And it's for like 2 minutes and nothing before anything could be done. And there's this woo 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 woo, this energy, this sound that these ships emit that helps nullify fear to just a small degree. And it only takes about a minute or two for that to change the world, enough people to see it. And then they're gone before anything can happen. But I will tell you, I think this whole fake alien invasion thing is to put so much energy, conscious energy into that it jumps us to a timeline that messes up what I saw. Okay? And I mean, when I saw this is back in the days when your buddy Art Bell was having that guy on there, Gordon Michael Scallion. I always paid attention to him because I had a vision of glass on a major city. I thought maybe it was Texas, like glass broken out of the skyscrapers. It must have been from a earthquake. And he described something like that. So I was always paying attention and listening to that back then for that reason. And that's when all that was going on. Anyway, sorry, man.
No. That's fine. But staying on this though, here we right now we're in the middle of this 3-eye atlas phenomenon, and on December 19th, which is in 14 days, December 19th, 15 days, it will have its closest approach to Earth. It's still going to be 100 million miles out or whatever it is, but it'll be its closest approach. Our third interstellar object and so forth. And what it is, well, we're still trying to figure that out. It's doing some weird stuff. Whatever, that part doesn't matter. What's fascinating to me? We haven't freaked out. It's not like we're losing our minds and you know what I mean? Nobody's tripping. I think that no matter what, if it turns out to be ET, I think most of the planet, and everybody's aware of 3-eye atlas, they're like, whatever, we can't be alone in the universe. What? Yeah. Okay. So it's ET. So what? So it's a comet. So what? But nobody has lost their minds.
It's fascinating. We're worried about 3-eye atlas when there are things that go on that they do right in front of our noses. And sometimes they say, the best thing is hidden in obvious sight. They have these missions, like, for example, the Osiris X-1, it went to asteroid Bennu and mined some of it and brought it back. And there's another one. People should check out the Barry satellite. Gotta love that name. And check out that mission. That's another one that's going out there and mining and bringing stuff back. And, I'd heard Richard Hoagland talking about under electron microscope that those pieces from Bennu appear to have minor, like, gears, nano gears in them. And he thinks
no. Stop, Barry. Stop.
Check it out. He was talking about the one that was the, they had a piece of that was at the Smithsonian that people could look at. He was asking people to go take their phones and get a picture of it before he thought it would get switched.
Okay.
And it was just very interesting. But the subject is, why are they mining that really and bringing that stuff back? He just is saying that he thinks that they're ancient spacecraft.
Yeah. Okay.
But when we start dealing with things like CG 1991 and SKG 3000, these near Earth objects, how come nobody pays much attention to those? When we start looking for you and I as a Star Trek fan, aren't you looking for V'ger to come back? Something was sent out of here when this was a Type 1 civilization that'll come back eventually.
Well, so Ryugu there's 2 asteroids that we have visited and brought stuff back. Scooped up a little teeny tiny scoop, right? But yesterday a press release came out. Ryugu, which is the first mission that we did, that was a Japanese mission. And from that asteroid, are you ready? You know what it came back, and it had what's the thing in Turkey that makes us fall asleep? It starts with a T. Okay. Well, anyway, I can't remember. I'm brain freezing. Ryugu had that on it, and Bennu, that little scoop. So tryptophan. Thank you, Christy. Tryptophan. Thank you, Bill. Tryptophan. Thank you, William. You guys are good. I don't know what. Look at this. Watch this. Tryptophan. 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 Tryptophan.
So as you not hip I am. Yeah, I've heard this on the meteorite. Yeah.
So tryptophan on Ryugu, on a random asteroid, and on Bennu, there were no gears. Forget about that, Barry. But more important than gears, on Bennu, 20 amino acids that make up RNA were found on Bennu. 5 proteins, the 5 basic proteins, and proteins are one of the most complex things out there. The 5 proteins that make up DNA were found on Bennu. RNA is the information precursor that feeds over into DNA and tells DNA what to do. Okay, so RNA and DNA both were found on Bennu. I just an asteroid, how many asteroids are out there, and the one that we happen to fly and land on and scoop and bring back, it's got everything for life on it. What does that tell you?
It takes panspermia to a different level.
It does.
You know what I mean? And I'll be honest, to me, okay, and when dealing with organic craft, it takes us into something else. Are you familiar with the work of Judy K. King? And she wrote the ISIS thesis. And that actually, in quick saying, it deals with more of what our quote unquote our uncoded DNA, our junk DNA, that actually is viral, not just bacterial but viral too, and that we have something that's actually a positive bacteria called the lambda-phage, and that the lambda-phage can be switched into a mycystic reproduction, which means when it injects this into the cell, it reproduces itself and goes. But in a way, she's saying that that's what the pharaohs were doing with the mummification, is they were trying to give the body enough time to activate actually the lambda-phage, so that they can actually use that in a way to skip the loss of memory during the death process. And being somebody that went through an NDE and also does earthbound spirit release, I'm always very, very interested in things that are this ability to us not lose our consciousness or our life memories when we go through the death process. something does happen. That's why a lot of us can't remember incarnating also where we were before. That's starting to change, I think, consciously right now. But for the most part, that's still a real problem. Remembering where we, who and what, where we were before. So when it comes to the death process, I don't, like for example, Jimmy, I was convinced for a long time, based on what I see, that this is a prison planet of lost souls stuck in a reincarnation cycle. I always thought that. And then when I started doing the regression work, I was forced to change my opinion of that. And a fool changes their opinion to the facts to match their opinion. A person that's fairly intelligent changes their opinion to match the facts and the data. Okay, and I can't, like some of these things you hear so much about, these soul reincarnations, these soul traps, all these things. Don't run around it. I don't run into that with all the regressions I've done. Not saying it doesn't exist, but man, it's not standard, and we're much stronger and have much more free will than we think. On the video, and I'll ask things like, hey, are you being told to reincarnate? Is your guide making you do it? Is the light making you do it? Is creator making you do it? And it's always been no. I'm choosing to do this. It's my choice. In fact, the person may be like that, but they're looking at me and I ask that, they kind of have like it's a stupid question. You know what I mean? I think these are things we need to be aware that we're much more than what we're told. And it may be humanity.
I'm so fascinated with life's journey. And I'll explain it like this, because you just touched upon it. If I could time travel, if I had the option, and we all fantasize about it, it's a romantic thought, right? Man, I could go back and get that chick in high school. Man, she, whatever. I go back and learn how to play the drums, or go back and okay. So there's this romantic side of time travel. But if I could time travel, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't. I would go back and observe. I'd go back and see how they built the pyramids or whatever. But I wouldn't change anything. Life's journey is just amazing. I have screwed up. I have experienced the worst, just horrible. I've experienced great things. The birth of my daughter, amazing, right? But you go back and change one thing, you and I aren't talking right now. And I don't want that changed. That how I got here is all that bullshit I put up with in the past. And that's the thing. And that's, now let's go outside of that and let's look at Earth, right? As a single thing. Earth is on its own journey. It's experienced good, it's experienced bad, but it's going to evolve and we are going to grow, and this planet is going to do its thing. Don't go back and change the past. Don't even trip on the past. Look at those bad experiences going, well, it sucked at the time, but it got me here. It sucked at the time, but my daughter was born, right? It sucked at the time, but if you walk up to a street and in the past, and you go left instead of right, and you cross the street this way instead of crossing the street this way, you have a completely different life. And that's what's fascinating to me. It's just fascinating. And Earth, so that's the micro, but you go into the macro, into the rest of the universe, into the free will that you're talking about. And that's, oh man, it's one of the things that I spend a lot of time thinking about.
It's a trip. Like when you do like a past life regression, not everybody goes to a life back on Earth. They go, there are other places. They're describing other civilizations, other states of existence. It's really fascinating, and I became like very, very interested in what when I was by around 2004, I came across 2003, the work of Edith Fiora. And that's what really kind of started me on doing the Earthbound Spirit release and doing that work, especially because she was involving cognitive behavioral with it too, like I kind of do. So anyway, but point being is the ways, the things that happen that stop people from crossing over. You know what I mean? And it's really much more simple than anyone would think. It could be property, it could be love, it could be addictions. those things, and it's so much easier for people not to leave here when they die. But then they're stuck and they start jumping with people, joining people. And for the perception, for the words of like somebody that doesn't, believe in mediums, let's say that's something that you can detect on the outside, like a ghost that's attached to somebody or a spirit that might be attached. That's on the outside of the energy field. But those that are inside the energy field, attached to places of trauma, and anyone can look that up psychologically, what parts of the body actually store what physical trauma. And on top of that, we have past life trauma that stores, that crosses with us somehow, ancestral trauma from our parents and everybody else, all that's stored up. And these entities will join on that point. And if it's a dead person, let's say they might have had, they might have died of a heart attack. So they're going to join with your heart center, it might be. You know what I mean? And then they'll start expressing themselves as negative behavior patterns. As a medium, I can't detect them on the outside. They're too entwined in the person's energy field, but they're ruining the person's life normally. And so it's a type of quote unquote possession, but it's not even the demonic we're talking about. And I'm going to tell you something, Jimmy Church, I swear to you, my friend, that I believe that the earthbound spirit population walking this planet is maybe more numerous than the living. It's pretty close.
It would have to be. It would have to be. Yeah, it would have to be. I read how many people have died since the dawn of man. What's that number? Right now, we have 8 billion people on this planet that are meat suits. Right? How many have died to get to this point? How many have died? I can't remember what the number is, but the point is, it's a bigger number than what is alive now. That's the first thing. The second is consciousness, the soul, whatever you want to label it, exists throughout the universe. All the other planets, all the other star systems, are they going back infinitely throughout time, right? That is a large number of memories. All right, that's it's just wow. Okay, so this is what I was tripping on last night, and I was tripping. I'm in the dark, and this is what I thought about. If consciousness is everywhere in the universe forever, are there pockets of thin consciousness? Is it thicker and more populated in certain parts of the universe? Is it thinner and weaker in others? Or is it all evenly distributed? Now, so there's three right? And I spent like 3 hours in the dark last night looking at the ceiling, like in my bed, thinking about that. Yeah.
It's very fascinating. I'll tell you something. I will tell you something. Okay, so this happened this recently, actually. I had a client, and we did the earthbound spirit cross and whatever regression, whatever it was we were doing. But at the end, I went ahead and we did a scan because I wanted to see what else was in the room by certain techniques I use. And in this case, there were 4 beings in this room that weren't attached to the client, but they described, one came forward and is talking through the client, says that they're from what we would call technically the 5th mansion world. Like this book, the Ranta book, talks about the mansion world, or if we wanted to use the Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Bardos are different levels we can go to, astral levels after death. Okay, they were saying they're from the 5th, or we could say 5th density, whatever. And they said that they were on like a mission. They're studying, and what they're trying to figure out is why love permeates all universes and all space and time. And they want to know why. And then they start saying, and we've watched you, and we've watched you talk about the soul, and that's part of the thing that we want to know too. Is there a soul? Because where we're at, we're good. And we think that the energy spirit body is what you're calling the soul. But then the fact we might be wrong, and it's more than that, because love permeates all universes in space and time. And that might have to do with the soul actually is more. And it's so interesting to hear these beings say this, Jimmy, because for me, I'm thinking of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I used to have that book. It described like a certain level where you get so much positive comes back to you, and these beings that have gotten, like, they describe them like gods on a beach that has everything beautiful and everything ever brought to them they could want. And they've lost their aspiration to get pure God consciousness.
But see, that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem. Right there.
You're a Star Trek fan, so it reminds me of that Voyager, where there's a Q that wanted to kill itself, and then they went to the continuum, and they said, "What's with the road?" He's like, "Well, the road," and there's a gas station. The road is the cosmos. It goes forwards and backwards, and we've all been up and down the road, and nobody's here saying anything. There's nothing left to say. We're omnipotent. We're omnipresent. There's nothing left. So in that way, that's what these beings reminded me of, in a way, because they were saying we're good. What a great level they were at as far as God conscious goes. But they seemed like they were aspiring to go higher. It was fascinating to me. Like I said, something I had to accept with the work I've been doing. I just have to take the data and I have to accept the data. And it is what it is. I can't make the rules. They just are what they are. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's touchy, fun, and interesting.
But it is so simple. And I'll tell you why it's simple about love. Okay? And I'm not a guru. I'm not the Dalai Lama. But damn it, I know I'm right. Okay? But here's the deal. There are bad people. Okay? And if you take a look at somebody that just is evil and does bad things and whatever, lies, invades countries, kicks puppies, whatever it is, right? Is somebody that got burned by love, and their pursuit of love just consumes them, but they're denied love. And so they're bitter, they're burnt, they have a coal in their chest instead of a heart. All right? That's how fundamental it is. But here's the flip side. If all of you got is love, you're on the beach, right? And you have everything in front of you, that's not good either. I don't want to live in a perfect world full of nothing but love, because that's boring. I mean, how much good can good be? How much good can you take? I want to go out and blow something up once in a while. You know what I mean? I want to go out and break the speed limit and bust one out at 150 miles an hour. And you know what I mean? Heaven to me, I don't want to go anywhere else, but heaven, I would sit there with Jesus and go, dude, today, you know what we're going to do? We're going to rob a bank. Let's go. Let's just do something. I can't take all this goodness. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
That brings us to something serious, is that as immortal souls, if we are immortal souls, and we do know the end of every outcome like that, like omnipotent, omnipresent, like is that Q, for example, okay? Is there nothing left? It means as immortal souls, our ultimate adversary is boredom. And it's like when you were a kid, you played hide and go seek, but after the first game or two, you know where everybody's going to be, but you kept playing it a couple of days after that because you didn't want to be bored. And as immortal souls, perhaps there's nothing left but for us to erase ourselves and then experience ourselves again and learn who we are and what we are again as pieces of the Creator. That takes it to another level about with dealing with the death process. Okay, there's I did a comparison recently with the book that was written by the CCRI, Ray Hernandez, and them, called Mind of God. Mm-hmm. And what they're saying, the mind of God is this actually repository that we go to after death that wipes our soul, our current life memories, our life memories, takes it. And I compared that to somebody I'm sure you read, which is Carlos Castaneda. In that book, The Eagles, I think it was The Eagle's Gift.
Man, great book. I read that when I was probably 15 when I read that.
Art was great. People that say that's just fiction. I asked him, I said, well, hey, did you ever try any of the techniques that he offered? Well, no. I said, well, I did. And how come some of them, like the Gate of Power, it yields third dimensional results? There's something going on. But but what Don Juan had told him was in that book is that they said that the shape of the universe was an eagle, and that when we die, we go in through the beak of the eagle, and the beak of the eagle is what consumes our life memories. Okay, and that ties into this whole thing. People saying, "Oh, the soul trap, or reincarnation, all that's tied together." So it becomes these methods that we can use that can help us to skip that awareness being taken. Castaneda and then the Toltec, the recapitulation, actually reliving your life, rebuilding it, and breathing the energy back and taking it back into your luminous cocoon, and then that makes a replicate of your life experiences. And when the death hits you, you go through the beak, aka the repository mind of God. It takes the recap and leaves your soul life memories intact. Judy K. King's Isis thesis is another possible way to actually how to use Egyptian postures and things after you get the lambada phage into that mycystic regeneration. People should look up that phage, lambada phage. It has a light component to it. Quite interesting what it might be able to do. And real quick, I don't want to get too weird, but in talking about contact and actual organic craft and dealing scientifically what we know about, which is called the deep biosphere of this planet, okay, where the deep biosphere contains actually like 95% of Earth's undiscovered bacteria and bacteria and fungal components, and something called, I got to hit the melanin, Jimmy, microbial dark matter. Okay, people should look that up. But when dealing with something like a possible lambada phage, or something that could be activated within the deep biosphere to help regenerate this planet, that's things we need to think about when talking about contact and biology. When you see a craft actually going into the Earth, it might be going to the deep biosphere and having a symbiotic connection there with the dark microbial matter. I'd thrown to some of those quantum physics, starting with Dr. Shields. I think that dark microbial matter is truly what's in the middle of the black hole. And I think it takes really anyway, that's a whole other thing. Sorry. But just it's food for thought for everybody, and scientifically stuff they can look up, and it don't matter what I say, but it holds you that way. I try to use a little bit. Science is not all answer by any stretch, but at least it gives us a baseline to try to get away from some fantasy and have something that's sustenance. So anyways.
Barry, I miss hanging out with you and talking, man. I look forward to getting you on the show again. We'll do it very soon, and so much more we need to talk about. But I just want to thank you, man, for your contributions to this community and to the world. You're absolutely amazing, and I look up to you. Thank you so much, Barry. And
I hope I didn't take us too far off what you want to talk about today.
Dude, you flew right up. You flew a mission. You dropped a bomb. It was awesome. Hey, BarryLittleton.com. The links are below. Everybody go and follow Barry. He's all over social media. Go and just check out his stuff, and it's just absolutely amazing. And I miss you, man. I haven't seen you in a minute, but we'll get caught back up, and I'm gonna have Michelle reach back out to you, and let's get something back on the books here fairly quickly. I want to pick up where we're leaving off right now. All right,
I'd be honored, man. Thank you.
You're the best, Barry. Listen, happy holidays. Go enjoy yourself. Those little black Santas. Okay. I'll talk to you, Barry.
Brother, peace.
I'll talk to you, Barry. Barry Littleton. I love your laugh. I've always said that. Thank you, Barry. Have a great night.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
I'll talk to you. Barry Littleton, the absolute very best. What a great conversation tonight. And Barry's website is below. It's in the description below, over on our website and throughout social media. Barry Littleton. All right. What a great night on the show. So much fun. Tonight is my Friday. It is your Thursday. It's my Friday. I'll see everybody back here on Monday. I don't get a chance to relax. I've got to work for the next 3 days and get some stuff done. I'm doing what I'm doing. But I'll see everybody back here on Monday. Until then, all I've got is go backly tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go backly tappy.